help female single parent executives and business owners who really trying to conquer the work-life balance challenge. And it's really about helping people transition from that, from emotional feeling of whether it's just that feeling of not feeling quite good enough because you're not delivering in all the ways that you want to, or whether it's actually you just feel like you're failing, to trying to help them get to a place where they're feeling confident, in control, and most importantly, kind of living the life that they want.
Hi, and welcome to Helping People Perform, the podcast that gives you fascinating insights into those people whose chosen vocation is to help others perform at their best. From consultants to teachers, sports coaches to financial advisors, all of my guests share a passion for getting the most out of individuals, teams, and organisations. Enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Helping People Perform podcast. Today, joining me in the call is coach and owner at JRG Consulting, helping single parent executives through her coaching work. Welcome to the show, Jessica Rhys-Griffith.
Hi, Paul. Thanks very much. It's great to be here, and hello to all your listeners.
Oh, well, thanks so much for taking the time today. We've got a lot to talk about, and certainly around the coaching side and single parent executives and who you target and how you help them. But as always, could we start off with a little bit of background about you? You know, what got you to where you are today?
Sure, of course. So, well, actually, it started when I left college. So, from college, I was planning to go and do law. But actually, my father died quite suddenly, and I just wasn't in the right mindset. So my mum, bless her, it was a 5-minute conversation in the car saying, I really don't want to go. And she was like, don't worry about it. You'll have to do something else because you need to go and earn some money. So I literally did a crash course on Word, PowerPoint and Excel, which will amuse many of your listeners. But I am of the age where I was doing my finals with pen and paper. And from there, I became secretary at surveyors. And then really over the next 10 years, I moved through different roles in different organizations. So the Lawn Tennis Association, I worked for a large publishing company for a while. And then I went to an international development consultancy where I stayed for a number of years. And it was really in that organization that I moved through several roles within the organisation and became a director of operations sort of in my late 30s, and then later chief operating officer. So work was my world. I was a bit of a 24/7 workaholic, but I enjoyed it. It had given me lots of opportunity to travel to really interesting locations. And, I had a brilliant team, and I really loved kind of leading and managing a team. And it was really different types of skill sets within that team, from some communications to IT, etc. So very varied. But I'd always wanted to have a family. And I was sort of 35 and single at the time. And actually the desire to have a child was much stronger than the desire for a relationship. So I am a single mum by choice, and I had my daughter at 39, which was just wonderful and absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, got thrown into the whole world of juggling, being a mum and working. And I think in hindsight, I just thought I could continue the way I had done before I'd had my daughter, but of course I couldn't. It was many years of kind of, juggling things. I was lucky that I did put in place a good support network, and that really provided some grounding, and I'm very thankful for that. That kind of kept my sanity. But I always felt that I was where I needed to be rather than where I wanted to be. I was very overwhelmed, tired, exhausted. It was that thing where you do the week, and you're at the weekend, you've got this little person who wants to go do things, and you're like, actually, I just want to glue myself to the sofa and rest, ready for the next kind of wave of activity. And I think also I worried a lot about what other people thought, because I was a single parent. The school gates, and you know that you all huddle to your particular demographic actually. But and concerned about being judged, and was my daughter really had she, was she losing out? Was she missing things? And so this whole sort of cycle of kind of confidence then also creeps into work, because you want
Yeah.
to do a good job. I felt I'd done really well, but actually things like requiring sudden validation started creeping in. I that's the wrong word. I felt like I had to work twice as hard, and that was me. It wasn't other people. It was just how I was kind of reacting to a lot that was going around me. And I think also I'd got to a point where I was really just reacting to whatever demands were coming in. So it was just a reactionary place. I wasn't driving anything. Um, and then there was a particularly difficult 6 months at work where I was working silly hours, which nobody should have to do it. And that was me. I did it. I went up for it. But I think it made me take a step. It almost broke me. I was not a happy person. I wasn't the mum I wanted to be. I don't think I was working particularly well. And it's the usual thing. You start eating really bad food. You can't remember the last time you moved more than 1 mile an hour. All those sorts of things. And really, it was a low point where I just thought, actually, this isn't what I signed up for. This is not why I had a family, and it's certainly not what my daughter signed up for. So I really took a bit of a step back and reflected about who I wanted to be, what I wanted to achieve, what was important, and where I really wanted to spend time, and what were real priorities. And I just started to change a few things. I changed, without a doubt, I was spending more time on work than home. And my daughter is 10.
Right.
And she's told me I did. So, she said, yeah, definitely work was the thing that you went to first. Because I think I could manage home in a way with the support. You could sort of keep that manageable, but work was just constant. And I allowed it to be constant. And I just started to make a few changes. So I made some very different daily habits to help kind of mindset and positivity, just to get into a very different headspace. I started to change work patterns at work. So I started not working at the weekends.
Right.
I very much took, and some people might go, oh no, this is bad. But I did start to say, where do I need to put 100% of effort in? And where can I actually put 60% of effort in?
Right.
Where can I delegate? Where can I empower other people? And really sort of learning to say no. I did a lot of, it's very easy to say we'll do something. But actually, until you schedule it and write it down, it quite often doesn't happen. So there was quite a lot of that, and making decisions about, there's four board meetings a year. I'll go to two, but I'm not going to the other two, because they always, Christmas was always a nightmare. And you end up doing a bit of the school play, a bit of the board meeting. Nobody's happy, and you're really unhappy. It's just pointless. So really kind of, through trial and error, and I got to a place where actually it was good, and I was enjoying a balance.
Yeah.
And I actually, found some time for myself. And then about a year ago, I decided that actually, I come across people all the time who are, having similar challenges. And I just feel, well, if I can short circuit that pain, and make it less challenging for others, then that's what I'd like to do that, and kind of contribute to hopefully making others get through those challenges more quickly, and get to a place where actually they are being the role model they want to be for their family, but also the leader they want to be at work. There's lots of different types of leader you can be, and are you really being the leader that plays to your strengths and the type of life you want to live? So yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, an amazing journey, and just those elements of learning as you go. Made a few notes as we go through here, and just that development of having to learn things like Word and Excel.
Oh, yes.
Lotus Notes was the first when I was working as well. So it's we're really alienating some listeners on that one.
Yeah.
Go to the museum and look that one up. But yeah, those elements of learning how to manage and lead a team.
Hmm.
How did you find that journey? Particularly when I find with people who have been in an organisation and worked their way up. Was
Yeah.
that well supported? Was it simply learn on the job, left to your own devices? What
Um,
was it?
it was quite so it was a company where it grew very quickly when I was there. So I think when I joined it, it was about 50 people, and when I left, it was 400.
Right.
And I think what I would say is a lot of it was learning on the job,
Mm.
and there wasn't a huge investment in training, because I think, when you're growing, I often say an organization that's growing, you've got a lot of problems, but they're quite positive problems
Right.
to manage and deal with. And you've got funds that if things go wrong, it's not such a you can kind of weather the storm. When the company is finding it really difficult, that's when the problems they're more difficult to deal with, because they tend to be more sort of negative and impactful on staff. Um, but I think my journey, I was lucky in that earlier in my career when I worked for a large publishing company, um, I had a lot of training, and,
Mm.
and training was really big there. So actually, I started managing teams in the publishing company, and I was lucky because I was given access to quite a lot of training, which then helped me when I moved into the consultancy company. But one of the things I did have coaching for when I was a director was I was the only female on the management team for quite a while,
Yeah.
and I found that quite difficult. It was a team of about seven. I was the only woman, and there was also, as in all companies, you've always got the technical versus operational. Like in publishing, it's editorial and production,
Right.
and in tennis, it's the tennis coaches and administration, and it's that thing of the sort of hierarchy and who feels they're contributing more. And certainly where I was, I had, I felt that they didn't always appreciate my operational contribution, because they felt that having technical, as what they sort of termed it, was of more value. So I did a lot of coaching. I had a really great coach who helped me to make decisions, which probably actually served me well later, because it
Mm.
sort of taught me when to get off the chessboard and when to stay on the chessboard, um, and what was worth kind of discussing and what wasn't really worth discussing. And I think the other thing I've been really lucky with, I've had some good leaders earlier in my career. I had, some very good managers, and then some other managers who didn't really work for me, but
Mm.
they probably work for other people. Because that's the other thing, sometimes styles just don't quite marry up. And I had a good team, and a lot of my managers stayed with me for quite a period of time. So I think that helped. But I think the last I'd say about that is when you're an executive, like when, as you said, being promoted within the companies, it can be difficult, because I
Mm.
think at a point, you're very much a manager, but when you're an executive, it's really the leader bit. You're
Yeah.
managing people really that can manage themselves, and certainly as a chief operating officer, you're managing people that have got way more knowledge about something than you have. I was looking after IT. Well, the IT, the head of IT knew way more than I ever would about IT. And so actually, they just really needed to be led and navigate the business and
Mm.
understand where the business was going, and how then they could use their skill set. So I think that empowerment becomes really critical when you're in that leadership
Yeah.
position.
Yeah. There's a lot of lessons I've learned over the years as well on that. What is it to be a leader versus a manager?
Mm.
And the elements of what is my job in this moment? Is
Mm.
it to get stuck in? Is it to help and micromanage and help that,
Yeah,
particularly when things are going wrong?
yeah.
Or is it to step back and let people graze their knees and not break their legs,
Yeah,
and give them those
exactly.
opportunities? Yeah, yeah,
I think so. And I think also it's important. I used to say it to my team a lot, we're at A, we need to get to B. I don't mind how you get to be, because my journey of getting to be is going to be completely different to yours. But I think, people never implement somebody else's idea as well as their own idea. I remember I was asked to, one of the things I would never do, that this was a hideous learning, was I was asked to deliver somebody else's PowerPoint once,
Right.
and it was horrific. It was horrific, and I can still feel quite nauseous. Um, and I remember after that thinking, yeah, that's the last time I'm ever going to deliver somebody else's PowerPoint. Yeah, I didn't understand half of it, and
Right.
it showed. But it was just like, you will do it, And I was quite young. I was about 24, so I was like, oh, I'll do it. It's an opportunity, one that I wish I'd said no to. But it's the same when people are trying to work out how to do things. You can say and make suggestions, but ultimately, if they've used something that they've come up with, or they've adapted something,
Yeah.
they own it, and they're going to give so much more to implementing it, and they'll enjoy it more.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, so maybe that takes us nicely into what you do today. So, in terms of who you help and how you help them, who do you target? Who do you support? And what's your mechanism for helping those people perform?
Sure. So yeah, so I really help female single parent executives and business owners who really trying to conquer the work life balance challenge, and it's really about helping people transition from that, from emotional feeling of whether it's just that feeling of not feeling quite good enough because you're not delivering in all the ways that you want to, or whether it's actually you just feel like you're failing,
Mm.
to trying to help them get to a place where they're feeling confident, in control, and most importantly, kind of living the life that they want, being the person that they want, and being able to prioritize and put their effort into the areas that are important, whether it's home or work.
Mm.
And I do it through a coaching program. It's kind of one-to-one, and it's really about helping people take a step away from the reality of what's happening, to getting real clarity on what's actually happening. We are very good at making things much bigger than they are sometimes, but you need that help and support and guidance just to go, okay, it's all right. And so there's a real piece about creating kind of your vision for the future, who you want to be, what's important, a bit like I did,
Mm.
um, to understand kind of where you are now, but also where you want to be. And then we go through a series of kind of sessions around kind of, mindset and positivity, how to build a better mindset. If you're feeling positive and energized, you make better decisions, you probably make different choices. Your behaviors might be quite different, and to like looking at relationships and connections with children, so ways to connect, what are their children interested in, and what are the ways that you can kind of utilize that and build connection. And the other one is around work, so what type of leader you want to be, and then really about time. So
Right.
I mean, we all say we just don't have time, and I've been there of like, I don't have time, I've got no time. But actually, there's sort of two ways of looking at it. You can kind of do a very quick, let's just see where my time's going over the next 7 days. But there's also ways of, your to-do list can really be actually quite demoralizing.
Yeah.
And, you look at your to-do list and you spend more time reading it than doing it. But actually, you can chunk your to-do list in very different ways around the outcomes that you're looking for. So actually, your to-do list becomes about 4 results rather than a list of 40 things that you're trying to get done. So it's kind of working through these elements
Mm.
to help somebody, facilitate and support somebody to perhaps put a different pair of glasses on, if you like,
Right.
to look at their lives and hopefully move in a much more positive way forward, and get what they want.
Mm. Oh, it is. It's an amazing space, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience as a not as a single parent, and certainly not as a single female leader in or executive, but from that position of if you find yourself getting into a stage where one thing is impacting the other, so sleep, and I've got young
Oh yeah,
children, and
sleep deprivation
the
is huge.
the impact that can have on not only your life, your home life, but the impact that has on work, and then the knock-on effects and the vicious cycles that go along with that. But one of the things that's really helped me in the past is thinking more about the not this or that, is that this and that, and actually how can you do more but do it with less, so that maybe that focus on results, but actually you want to have some more time with your kids and you want to get a project finished. Well, how do you accomplish both of those things? And if you look at that way, it might change your mindset in terms of how you approach it. So
exactly. And I am a big believer in, I used to be, I had a bit of a sort of label as a doer. So I used to try and do everything. And it's true, with 20% of activity, you can generally get 80% of the result you want. You just need to think about it a little bit more. And drive rather than react. But it's easier said than done. And as you say, when you're in that spiral, and it's a catch-22, because you're never in a strong enough sort of mindset to actually kickstart yourself to do something. It's really tough, and it's a horrible place to be.
Yeah. And speaking of that particular thing, how getting the value of having a coach. I've felt it myself. I've spoken to a lot of people on this, but taking that first step to go in, maybe I need a coach. Maybe I recognise that having a coach will be useful to me, but then actually engaging with a coach. What do you do to encourage people to do that, or at least try something out and take that first step?
I would just say, do you want to stay where you are? Or actually, with one phone call or one email, you can do something good for yourself today. And you don't know where it's going to lead, but it will lead somewhere rather than nowhere. So kind of do something for yourself. And, and there's lots of different places you can go to kind of access coaches. Or if you're feeling, not sure, there are, you can go to a Facebook group. There's lots of Facebook groups, and actually, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. Be careful you don't lose all of your time into Facebook there, because that's the double-edged sword of it. But you can do that. And there's a lot of coaches, and including myself, they often offer 3 30-minute chat. There's no obligation, but just for somebody to get a feel of what it's like to be coached. Because it's, coaching isn't about telling, it's about supporting and helping someone get from A to B, and it's their B. And you can just see whether actually it's something that would suit you, and quite often you'll get a few nuggets that you can then go and implement. So I would just say, do you want to just stay where you are, or do you want to do something that would actually might make a big difference?
One of the bits that comes to mind as well, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, is that the mindset shift from almost feeling guilt of investing in yourself, particularly when you've got family and work where you are there to support those people, the power of investing in yourself that has that positive impact on those other people. So if you want to help others, help yourself first.
It is. Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Who's it going to benefit? Not just you, but actually everyone around you. And that's a gift that you're giving yourself and to them. Yeah. An opportunity. Yeah.
Lovely way to view it. So turning this on its head a little bit, how do you get your performance? Sorry, who do you go to? What helps you perform better in your sphere?
Yeah. No. So I've got a number of Facebook groups that I do tap into, and they're things from female entrepreneurs to mumpreneurs, and I didn't spend hours on Facebook at all, but just knowing that there are other people who are in that same situation and that same boat is really helpful. And then I do tap into a person who's big in the self-education space, which is called Dean Graziosi. And he does a lot of work around mindset and momentum. And one of the things, he has a community which provides training. So I do tap into that. And the other one I do is the Association for Coaching. So obviously I'm going through a certification for my coaching at the moment, and they have access to podcasts and training, etc. And I'll tap into things like other podcasts like the Diary of a CEO, for example. So I try and definitely, in order to keep myself in a specific place, I definitely tap into a few resources that are available to keep myself on the straight and narrow. And I wouldn't, and I've had coaches in the past, where I've thought actually I need some coaching, and that's always really helpful. And I buddy up with a colleague where we both went through the certification together,
Right.
and so we actually coach each other, and that's really lovely because you touch base kind of once a month and things pop up and kind of how things go. But I think the main thing I think for me is just when you're whatever you implement is just implement it consistently. It can, because it takes time, and people, I've done it in the past. You try something and actually it doesn't seem to be doing very much, but actually it's only through consistent implementation do you really get the benefit. So I just say stick with it.
Oh, wonderful. And yeah, I think I have a lot of networks and connections in the world of the solopreneur, the individual operator. And I think it's really important to keep connected in that space, just to, as you say, to realize that you're not there on your own.
Yeah.
And other people are either further down the line and can
Yeah.
support you and give advice, or they're just getting started, and you can give them advice. And personally, I find it very valuable from a sort of mentorship or support piece where I can give other people advice, and it often triggers in my own mind, just like, maybe you should be doing that. Well, am I doing that myself? Should I?
It's a real opportunity for learning, and developing, and it's a nice way to do it because people are wanting to give, they're wanting to make a contribution, and so I think that makes it a much more. It's sort of feels a much more like it's a gratitude. It's much more grateful and appreciative, rather than a sort of transaction that sometimes it might feel like. Yeah.
Okay, so slightly different question then. If you could help any individual, team, or organisation with your skill set, who would you want that to be?
I think maybe, and it's a sort of reflection, I guess, after COVID, or well, we're still sort of in the bits of COVID, but the handling COVID and what it's left. I think being able to help maybe people in the health service, or frontline workers, because I think they have so much pressure on them. They don't have the resources. It's particularly difficult, I think, in the UK at the moment. So I think if I were given the opportunity to go and help somebody, that would be the organisation I would like to help.
Oh, wonderful, and definitely a worthy group of people who've given so much, and are the prime target in my mind for the people who need the most support to help themselves before they help others.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's really tough what they've been through, but also what they continue to deal with. It feels really, really tough.
And conversely, then, if you were able to sit down and have a coffee or have a drink or have a meal with somebody that you think you could learn from, just of general interest, who might you want that to be?
So I think I'd have a coffee maybe with a couple of people. So I'd love to meet David Attenborough. And that's partly just because I think he's seen so much and he's seen so much change. And just a really interesting person in terms of, obviously, I like sustainability and conservation. So learning about that. But I also think it would be fascinating to talk to him about kind of world leaders and how those big summits and meetings work or don't work. And, the whole challenge of really getting a group of very different states that have very different agendas on one page to try and kind of move forward on the whole climate change issue. I'd love to sort of hear what he'd have to say about how those relationships work, actually how you do get things done. I think that would be really fascinating. And the other person I'd love to meet is Dean Graciosi. Having kind of having listened to him several times and been to a couple of his events, it would be great to talk to him, because I think he's self-taught. He's learned everything he's doing. He's failed many times, but that's fine. That's just an opportunity. And I think his mindset, I think, is amazing, but he's also quite authentic and realistic about he still has a bad day just like everybody else, But yes, I think maybe those two people would be good to chat to.
Oh, I'm sure that'll be some fascinating conversation there. And finally, then, how do people find out more? How do they get in touch, and who should be getting in touch as well?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, as I said, it's female single, parent executives or business owners or, people in leadership management positions that are, finding the work-life challenge really difficult. You can find me at my website, which is Rees, Jessica Rhys-Griffith.com.
Right.
And the main thing I do is really, I would just say, look, if you wanted to take action, I do offer the 30-minute free consultation. It's no obligations. It's more of a chat really to kickstart and help somebody just start to think about what they could do to make a difference. So so if anybody is, please just get in touch. It'd be
Fantastic.
Great.
And we'll make sure all the those connections and links are in the show notes as always. And do reach out. And I think with that, one of the messages I want to try and get across with people, and hopefully this is reflected with you as well, Jessica, is when we say no obligation free 30-minute chats, people actually mean it. It's just
yes, it is. It's more about, I just want to provide some help. So if it just means that somebody takes a couple of things away after 30 minutes that they can start to implement, they can. And I feel like I've made a contribution, and hopefully they feel like they've taken something valuable.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jessica. An amazing chat and some wonderful stuff there. So thanks very much for being on the show, Jessica.
Well, thanks ever so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Many thanks.
Speak
and thank
soon.
you to the listeners. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, then please give the podcast a rate, review and share. I'm Paul Teasdale, and from sausage making to banking, oil and gas to Formula One, I help people perform. If you'd like to find out more and have a conversation, contact me via helpingpeopleperform.com.